Will democracy survive the next couple of years?
And there are so many needs that Minnesota has.
What people are saying they need right now.
Access to democracy is made possible by donations from the following organizations. Thomson Reuters, a global company with expertise and insight to unravel complex situations in the areas of law, tax, compliance, government, and media. Their worldwide network of journalists and editors keep customers up to speed on relevant global events. Thomson Reuters, the Answer Company. Crutchfield Dermatology, a full-service treatment center in Medi-Spa in Eagan. Their goal is to help you look good and feel great with beautiful skin. With service built around courtesy, dignity, and respect, Mayo-trained Dr. Charles Crutchfield personally treats each patient and is acknowledged as one of the nation's best physicians. Firefly Credit Union, with locations throughout the Twin Cities, has proudly served Minnesotans since 1925. Firefly guides its members forward by delivering customized financial solutions to improve their lives in all aspects of banking. Firefly Credit Union, they light the way with life illuminated. Edina Eye Physicians and Surgeons, a division of Twin Cities Eye Consultants, has proudly served the Twin Cities for more than 55 years. Now in 7 convenient locations, using the most advanced technology combined with a human touch, Edina Eye offers comprehensive services by dedicated specialists committed to excellence with innovative procedures and expertise for the most advanced eye care.
Welcome. Access to Democracy returns. Alan Miller with you, and we have a first-time guest, a really interesting young man by the name of Deon Clark, who has gone from, I'm going to let him tell about his background, but he's gone from being a nuclear reactor operator to a person who is really helping to save the lives of young people by giving them hope and inspiration. And Deon, you are originally from Chicago, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But you are the president of TCI Solutions. What is TCI?
So TCI, the company, and I'll tell you in the beginning here, TCI stands for the Clark Initiative, which was an effort for me to take all of my parents, my grandparents, those who came before me, and somehow enshrine their legacy into the work that we're doing now. So we call the TCI for the Clark Initiative.
The mystery letters.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that.
And you've moved on to the Legacy Initiative?
So that's a nonprofit. So we have a 501c3 nonprofit that supports a lot of the students who we train through our TCI organization. So they work as supports to each other.
Now, you were in the Navy for a number of years.
Yes, 8.5.
And 8.5. And somehow or other you gravitated to this. So let's take that path.
So I left Chicago. I was 17 when parents signed off, allowed me to go to the military. And the military is such good training where I was a mechanic, but I was part of the nuclear Navy. And so not only did they teach us to be machinist mates, but they also trained us to operate the nuclear power plants for the submarines and the aircraft carriers, which is very interesting.
I would say.
Very interesting. And so you get to a certain level of expertise in the military where they send you to 2 facilities where you can teach it. So that sent me up to upstate New York, Boston Spa, where you had Knowles Atomic Power Laboratory. They had a joint agreement with the Navy to use that facility, but they had 2 test reactors and then like a decommissioned submarine that was used for training. Did that for my last part of the military, but then when I separated, I went back home to Chicago. In the first couple of months, as I'm just kind of getting situated, I began to see again just how many young people were just kind of out there on the streets, just outside. You know they have potential, you know they're brilliant, but they were just there. And that was the first phase of just thinking about how might we connect to some of those young people. And we started to put things in place, programming where we knew if we can get in touch with them, if we can spend time, getting them to understand our background, and that though they see us today and they see an element of success, if we can share that journey, we knew we
and
can
show
get them.
where you were and what you became, and make them recognize that they too could become, if not, a nuclear reactor operator, but some sort of position. Maybe it's computer guided,
Absolutely.
maybe it's educational, maybe it's being inspiration for other people. I mean, you told me a story about
Absolutely.
kids never thought beyond 21 because they didn't think that they'd be alive past 21
Yeah.
in the ghettos of Chicago, really.
Absolutely.
And what a frightening.
It's hard for some people to imagine that, but that was when we went to some of the schools, and we were going to go there to encourage students to get out of high school, stay focused, and many of them would tell us point blank, Mr. Clark, I understand what you're saying, but I'm not going to be here past 21, meaning for me, there's no point in putting all my effort into high school when that's really designed for you to have a successful future. I won't be here for that, so I'm living for the moment. And that was the reality check where we knew we fundamentally had to reprogram the way young
They're
people
saying,
were thinking.
I'm not going to have a future. And what a sad thing for a kid who's
It
16, 17 years old to look forward to nothing.
Yes, and to assume that you may not even be here on earth.
Right.
tough.
And of course, why do those kids fall off the wagon? Why do they go into drugs and crime and other things? Because they don't think that they have a future, so they're living for the moment, as you said.
Absolutely. That's that hopelessness piece.
And you got inspired to do something about that.
Yes, yes. What I share with some folks is, I don't put myself outside of the realm of these young people. I have family members who have been incarcerated. I have a brother that's serving close to 3 centuries, if you can even believe that. He has over 280 years sentence, and we're only 1 year apart. And I look at, fundamentally, there's a book called The Other Westmore, and a lot of people have heard about that, where the gentlemen grew up in the same neighborhood, same name, took 2 different paths. I grew up in the same house with my brother, same everything, yet I run successful companies helping young people. My brother was incarcerated for life, and it's how is that possible? And I take that element of what I had to learn, that it was a sum of my choices. It didn't matter where my beginning was, because we all had the same beginning. It didn't matter the challenges. It was, how did I make decisions? And my job was to teach younger people, this is how you make the decisions. Doesn't matter where your starting point is. This is how you process that information and make a better decision and move forward.
We have a police chief here in Minnesota who is one of the most respected police chiefs that we have, and I'm not going to embarrass him by naming him, but he's got 2 older brothers. One is in state prison and one is in federal prison, and his mother said that's not going to happen to all 3 of them.
Absolutely.
So she took her baby and she made sure that he took a different path.
Yes.
And that path has led him to being a really respected and well-liked officer of the law.
Yes.
So what you're telling me is you have a brother, your brother fell off the wagon, and he's away for life, and here you saw something, or your parents saw something, to direct you into first the Navy, which taught you, I'm sure, discipline, among
huge.
other things, and education. But the thing is that you were capable of doing it, and all these kids out there in Chicago or elsewhere are capable of doing it also.
That's the key.
If they get direction, if they
That's
get
the
help,
key.
if they get, and that's really the sad commentary on our society, that it's not that there's bad people in the ghetto, it's that people are not being helped, not giving the advantages, not being given the education, and you are a prime example of that. Now you've got legacy initiatives in how many cities now?
So we're here in the Twin Cities. We do work in Phoenix, Arizona, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and Omaha, Nebraska, the 4 major areas that we're working in now.
And when a young person goes into one of your programs, male or female, makes no difference.
Correct.
What do they have to do to get through the program?
So it's about 200 hours, and the first 100 hours, we sort of unofficially call it behavior modification. Here's what that really means. It's us sharing, and when I say us, it's myself, my team, some of our contractors who all have experiences and all have a desire to share those experiences. We train them on how to connect with students, how to tell your story, but we open up and let them know we truly have been through many of the same circumstances. Part of it's just because we're all humans. Everybody has felt self-esteem issues. Everyone has felt lost. Everyone has had high hopes. Everyone has had successes, failures. But when we open up and we create an environment where they know we can legitimately help you because we too have overcome, we spend about 100 hours working on the minds, teaching them how to make decisions.
Of the students, of the young people that we're talking about, or are we talking about teachers? Because I know you also have a program where you work with teachers. So where's the differentiation there?
Those students, it's that direct contact where we really work with them, make sure that we show them how to manage their emotions, manage their decision making. There are a lot of teachers who, because they're in that school every day, they too are wondering, how do we do a better job of connecting? So we do a lot of staff professional development training. It's essentially us teaching teachers what we teach our staff, the process of doing that. And it works out pretty well for them.
And hundreds of students have gone through your program and gone on to good lives, respectable lives, and lives where they're making a future for themselves.
Absolutely.
And money and family, and it gives just a whole different perspective on their life.
Yes.
And the fact that they have a future.
That is so true. When we look at students who have gone through our full range of training, hundreds of students, there's even more. There's thousands of students who have gone through the behavioral piece where, while they may not have been certain what careers they wanted to choose, they still wanted to go through the part of helping themselves make better decisions and being more solid in their thought process. So it's had that impact.
And these students who come to you with a chip on their shoulder because they think that chip is there because what do I have to look forward to? And you really spend the time and the hundreds of hours to teach them that, hey, if you do what you're supposed to do in this society,
Yes.
there is a future for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's this. I tell you, Alan, it's the helping them understand the potential is already there. These young folks are brilliant. Many of them are extremely resilient, and it doesn't look like that sometimes because what we see is the challenges that they have, but it's those very challenges that is their strength. And so it's helping them to see that you may live in a poor community. I specifically lived in a place called Markham, which is just south of Chicago. It's a poor community. Okay, here's what that did for me. When I was in that Navy, though they teach you, how to respond when chaos ensues, most people, when it happens, sometimes the training doesn't kick in and people panic. I distinctly remember when things were happening, for me, my threshold for panic was so high that nothing really fazed me. That's a direct result of where I grew up. That's a direct result of it takes so much more to panic me. That skill was very useful in the military because it's high stress. So it's a lot of young folks who would thrive in high stress situations because they manage stress every single day. It's a natural thing, but they just don't know that that's a positive. It's other things that are positives, even though sometimes society views it as a negative, but it's not. It's a strength.
So you went into the Navy at 17?
Yeah.
And take us along that path.
So I got straight to Florida. After we got a basic, so basic was in Chicago, fortunately for me. I go in and whole new world. This was the first time that I was really around this wide, diverse group of individuals from all over the world, all over America. We were all in the same place. And I tell you, it was beautiful in that I didn't know how much we all shared in common. Because I too grew up where it was pretty homogenous where I grew up in. And I knew of other cultures based on what I saw on TV and what I heard. But to be on that ship with a few thousand other people who all were there for the same reason, everybody's looking to take care of their families, that gave me perspective that we were the same. Each of us have different circumstances, we're exposed to different things, but at our core, we want the same thing. And so I advanced relatively quickly through the ranks in the military, learned what I
would
needed to
say
learn.
because you ended up being a certified nuclear reactor operator and teacher.
Yes, so the SRO, that's what we called it for short. For all the utility folks listening, they know what that is. That was right after I got out the military. In the military, the equivalent of that was, it's basically a supervisor. And so we got to that level, meaning you not only knew your job, but you understood people. And to teach it, it wasn't just teaching enlisted folks, which I was. We were teaching military officers. We were teaching folks who were older, folks who were younger. I think that helped me to realize, while I may be a young black man who was from Chicago, it did not limit who I could impact. And that's a huge thing, that any one of us, provided you have the training, can impact any young person. It's you. Do you have the training? Do you believe in them enough that you're willing to give of yourself? I think the military really helped me to see it cuts across. It's do you have the desire to help somebody else?
And you have gone from the military after 8.5 years.
Yes.
You got out and you looked around, you decided you want to do this with your life.
Yes.
But along the way, you also taught in some colleges.
Yeah.
Several, as I believe, right?
That was strategic. So, because the work we do now with TCI Solutions, it links the key components in order to build a workforce system. So you have to have your post-secondary institutions, you got to have your secondary institutions, the high schools, your community support groups, but you also got to have the businesses. And so what I needed to know was, how do the colleges function? How do they make decisions? What are their pain points? So that we would be better positioned to know how to partner with them. So I had an opportunity to build what they call the PTech, Process Technology Program, for Olive Harvey College in Chicago, which gave me a lot of insight on program development. I also served as the energy director in Arizona. So all of our energy programs, it sort of ran through us, so we helped develop them, we helped to put forth the curriculum. We were the first ones to have the nuclear curriculum out in Arizona. So that gave me good perspective. I also have a degree in human resource management. I didn't mention that.
Which certainly helps.
It helps because I know what the companies, what is it that they do, what are their processes. Then we have the nonprofit, so we're very familiar with some of the challenges that your community groups have as far as how do you access funding, those things. You put all those together and you see how everything links. And that's where TCI came in. It was linking these resources.
Yeah, one of the things that I saw is teaching underserved students and parents,
Yes.
both,
Huge
and
piece.
professional skills to students through the Legacy
Yes.
initiative, which just elevates them. It elevates their consciousness. It elevates their own self-worth and self-analysis of
Yes.
themselves.
That is so important, that the systems are in place. Minnesota is a wealth of resources. A lot of times what we find is that though the resources are there are individuals who may not know that those resources are there, or they just haven't made the decision that they're ready to take advantage. So getting inside mentally and getting people to a place where they recognize what they need and then they know where to get it, that's been a big part of our push is know what's here. It's resource rich in Minnesota.
Now, our studios are located right here in the Thomson Reuters building, and I know that you work with corporations and companies, and one of the ones you work with happens to be Thomson Reuters.
Absolutely.
So how would that work? You would contact Thomson Reuters, or they would contact you with special needs, and you would fill them?
A lot of times the companies will reach out where they'll look at their workforce analytics over the next some number of years. And once they know, they have their projections, we'll get contacted to see, can we build out a talent system so that 3 years from now, you know exactly who's gonna fill certain spots. That's typically how we've got in contact with companies. There are occasions where we'll proactively go out, but we tend not to do that. We don't really market it in that way. It's typically CEOs tend to be in a small circuit, and so they kind of talk.
They find
Share.
out about you, and they
Absolutely.
contact you. And we're not just talking about Thomson Reuters. We're talking about many, many corporations and
Absolutely.
organizations that come to you, and then you meet their needs. So it's really a win-win, because
Yeah.
it's a win for the student, it's a win for the corporation,
Absolutely.
and it's getting another productive member into society.
That's huge. That is huge, and the cycle just continues, because those young folks, as they progress, mom and dad see that, and many times mom and dad then are comfortable enough to say, hey, well, I would like to get to the next level, and we're able to point them to the resources that can advance them as well. And so you see this
You mean
ecosystem.
you're giving inspiration not only to the kid, but to the parent who has
Absolutely.
lost really faith in this system. And perhaps, now I know you run workshops.
Yeah.
Pretty much your workshops are to get them to really listen and to try to understand that there can be a future. Is that right?
Yes, yes. It's informational, where, again, some parents don't know what they don't know. I know a lot of parents that will say, hey, I love what you do. I wish my kid maybe follow that path. But when I tell them up front, well, I was a machinist mate, and they see my hands where fingers were sewn back on, and we worked in the bottom of the ship. It's dirty. Then some parents will think, well, that's beneath my kid. And we help to make sure they understand, don't limit what your kid might be willing or wanting to do, because if you fast forward, while I was a machinist mate, I said earlier, we command, this is on the low end of the pay scale, $130,000, $140,000 a year. That's if you did it without a degree. You add a degree to that and make yourself even more valuable. So when parents start to learn that the industry has evolved, what yesterday was dirty work, technology has evolved that. It's not the same as they may have remembered it.
Well, it's
and
one
educate
of
them
the
on
things that community colleges are so important for.
Hugely
Because,
important.
you want to find a plumber, it's tough to find a really good plumber
Yeah.
today. We're starting to come to the recognition that these are the people that are the backbone of our society.
Absolutely.
You want a lawyer, they're
They're available.
Open your door, you can step on a lawyer.
They're available.
I was guilty of that too, but
Yeah.
it's a whole different ball game, and appreciation of that,
Yeah.
and recognition.
And
Now,
it's
have
helping
any of your
parents know.
students gone on to become instructors with you?
So, not directly. We have several who they go back into the schools. Matter of fact, we just had a couple of them who have been hired by Thomson Reuters. Some on the core publishing solution side. I think just last month they came back into, I think it was Burnsville High School, to share their journey, where they just were a student. Now they work for Thomson Reuters, and they're telling their story of what it took, what it looks like. If you stay focused, this is what can happen. And those students are from where they're from. So there's a credibility that exists when a former legacy student goes back, because the other kids know, like, I just saw you 2 years ago as a senior in high school. I know you, who you say you are, yet now you're doing exceptionally well. That's a big part of it.
Well, peer recognition is really important.
Yes.
And they see you, and you're a person of color who came from a community that was not a well or off community.
Yeah.
It wasn't Grosse Pointe, Michigan. And they can relate to that because they can
Yeah.
relate to themselves as these students who went to Burnsville High School.
That's important.
You're great.
Yeah, that's important. Now, but I'll say this, Al, and this is for any of folks who are in this space. Even if you didn't come from that type of a circumstance, what's important to know is you still had challenges. You still overcame multitude of things where you can connect with these young people. And so there are some young folks whose circumstance I can't even comprehend, but I can still connect because I'm aware of challenges. There are some who cannot even imagine what I've been through, yet we can still connect. But it does help when you have a frame of reference that allows you to see the potential in those kids, because you're from there, what good can come out.
Now, you just casually mentioned, you're a mechanic and you have a couple fingers that get sliced off and put back on. take me down that road a little bit.
You know, this
That
so
didn't,
one, it's a
didn't
badge
go
of
over my
honor.
head. It hit me right between the eyes.
I wear it as, I don't know, if you can see it. You know, this whole finger they put it back on, and I'll tell you this, for anybody listening, put your safety gloves on. This was the one day where I've been doing the job so long, I made a decision in my mind, I'm just fine. And it's the one day I decided not to follow protocols. That's the day where I lost balance and the deck plate came down and lodged my finger between the deck plate and the hinge, and just literally it just took it off. And so they tucked it back in and fixed me on back up. But that was that complacency of thinking that I'd done this one thing so long, I don't need to take my safety precautions. And I learned my lesson on that one.
I guess you did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the hard way.
Indeed, indeed.
So we have a couple of minutes left. If you're speaking to some of these students, and I hope you use this interview to do that, what do you say to them?
I tell you, one of the most important things that I would want young people to know is that you have to remove the word try. We are heavy when we talk with students in Legacy that there is no such thing as try. There is simply what you do and what you do not do. You cannot try to pick your brother up at 3 o'clock. Either you picked him up at 3 o'clock or you didn't. You can't try to get an A in math. Either you will get the A or you don't. And it forces accountability, self-accountability to think through something and make a decision on if you're gonna do it. Then you get the help you need to achieve that. But don't you say you're gonna try to do it, because try absolves you of responsibility. It's, I tried, and you never can fix the error because you can't acknowledge you failed if you tried. So that's a very important thing, is remove that word try. Focus on getting it done. And if you don't, that's fine. Life happens, but learn what went wrong, fix it, get it done the next time.
Either, try it again or overcome that difficulty.
Do it again.
Do it again.
Absolutely.
How we fall into the trap.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Absolutely. And we've been talking with Deon Clark, a fascinating individual with an incredible background. And TCI Solutions has morphed into Legacy Initiative, which is a 501c3, I believe.
It is.
And a nonprofit. Is taking lives and giving inspiration to young people, and in some occasions to older people and parents.
Yes.
That life is what you make it. Don't try to have a better life. Have a better life.
Do it.
Do it. Do it. And really, really a pleasure to meet you and to talk to you and to wish you the very best. And I think we're going to have to do this again at some point.
Anytime. Anytime.
So we will fist bump now, because we're in a coronavirus.
Right, we got to be careful.
In a coronavirus era. So we don't shake hands anymore, and that bothers the hell out of me. But
got to be safe.
Deon, thank you so much.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you.